Ladies, I have to ask, have you ever found yourself asking strange questions like, what day is it again? Or why did I walk into this room? We laugh it off, but according to doctors, these seemingly odd questions might be early warning signs of something more serious, early dementia. In this video, we're going to talk about 8 weird but important questions many older women ask without realizing they could be red flags. And trust me, you'll want to stick around for number 6 because it's the one most women ignore until it's too late. Backhand index pointing right. Before we dive in, hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know in the comments if you've ever caught yourself saying any of these things. We're all in this together, and you're not alone. 1. Why is my purse in the fridge? Now, I know this one sounds silly. You probably chuckled a little when you heard it. But let me tell you, the first time it happened to me, I didn't laugh. I stood there staring into the refrigerator like it was some kind of crime scene. My purse was sitting right there on the middle shelf, right next to the orange juice. At first, I thought I was just distracted. Maybe I was holding the bag while putting groceries away and didn't notice what I was doing. But when it happened again a few weeks later, with my reading glasses ending up in the laundry basket, I started to wonder, why was I putting important things in places they clearly didn't belong? Doctors actually say this kind of behavior can be an early sign of trouble, not just simple forgetfulness. It's about the brain mixing up associations. Normally, your brain knows your purse goes by the front door or on the kitchen counter. But when that part of your brain starts misfiring, suddenly your purse ends up in the fridge, your keys go in the sock drawer, and you start asking yourself, what's going on with me? It's not about being clumsy or silly. It's a deeper problem with how your brain processes logic and memory. If you're doing this sort of thing often, putting objects in the wrong places and not remembering how they got there, it might be time to take a closer look at your cognitive health. 2. Have I eaten today? While holding a fork. This one hit me a little harder. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, halfway through a sandwich, and suddenly thinking, wait, did I already eat breakfast? And here I was eating lunch. The toast crumbs were still on the plate in front of me, and yet I had no memory of making or even starting the meal. When I told my doctor about it, she didn't laugh. She looked at me kindly and said, that's a short-term memory concern, and we need to monitor it. The truth is, when your brain can no longer link the act of eating with the memory of it, it's more than just a senior moment. Our hippocampus, that's the little part of the brain that forms and stores short-term memories, starts to struggle. You may go through the motions of eating, but not store the memory. That disconnect can lead to accidental undereating or overeating, confusion around medications, and even safety issues if it happens during cooking. And let's be honest, when we start second-guessing our most basic routines like meals, we lose confidence. We begin questioning everything. Did I feed the dog? Did I take my pills? It becomes a cycle of uncertainty. And if this kind of thing starts happening regularly, it's not just frustrating, it's a warning flag. 3. Who are you again? To a familiar face. I think this is one of the hardest ones to admit, because there's a certain shame that comes with looking into the face of someone you should know, someone you've maybe known for years, and drawing a complete blank. Maybe it's a neighbor you've talked to every week at church. Or worse, a distant relative who's been to every holiday dinner. And yet when they walk up to say hello, you smile politely and think, now where do I know them from again? And sometimes, even after they say their name, it doesn't click. That feeling, that foggy, disconnected feeling, is more than just embarrassment. Doctors call this face recognition difficulty, and it can be one of the earliest signs of cognitive decline, especially when it appears in someone who never had trouble remembering people before. It's not just about forgetting names. Everyone does that. But when you begin to forget faces, that's when professionals start to worry, because that means your brain isn't just failing to retrieve a label, it's failing to recognize someone altogether. That's a deeper level of memory loss. It's also painful, both for you and the person on the other end. You can see it in their eyes when they realize you don't remember them, and it leaves you wondering, how many more people will I forget? For why can't I find the right word for that thing? You know that feeling when a word is right on the tip of your tongue, but just won't come out. You wave your hands, you point at it, you describe it every which way, but the word itself, gone. Oh, hand me the TV clicker thing. Or worse, you find yourself calling your toothbrush a mouth cleaner or your microwave that food zapper. Now, look, we all mix up words now and then. That's normal. But when word-finding difficulty becomes a daily battle, when basic familiar words escape you for longer and longer, or you stop using them altogether, that's when doctors start to raise their eyebrows. Language problems are one of the earliest and clearest signs of cognitive decline. In fact, some researchers believe that changes in vocabulary and sentence complexity can start years before more obvious memory loss appears. Your brain starts struggling to access its library of words, and that's often the canary in the coal mine. And here's the real danger. Many women start to withdraw from conversations because of it. We get embarrassed. We nod instead of speaking. We avoid telling stories or joining group chats because we're afraid of sounding off. And that isolation, that silence, it only makes the decline worse. 5. Didn't you tell me that already? Over and over again. This one stings. And if you've ever had a loved one give you that look, the one that says, "Yes, Mom, you asked me that 5 minutes ago. You know what I mean." I remember sitting with my daughter at the kitchen table. She was telling me about a new position she'd gotten at work, something she was really proud of. I was excited and congratulated her with a big smile. But then a few days later, I asked her, "So, are you still looking for jobs?" And her face dropped. She gently reminded me that we had talked about her promotion already twice. The worst part, I had absolutely no memory of those earlier conversations. Now, we all repeat ourselves sometimes. We get excited, or we forget who we've told what. But when the same question starts coming out of your mouth over and over again in a short period of time, especially when you can't recall asking it at all, that's not just forgetfulness. That's your brain losing its grip on recent memory. Doctors say this is one of the first patterns families notice in loved ones developing dementia. The person seems present, they seem alert, but they're stuck in a loop, asking about dinner plans, the time of an appointment, or whether someone is called. And each time you answer them, it's like the first time they've heard it. You might feel embarrassed or frustrated with yourself. But it's important to know this isn't a character flaw. You're not being difficult or inattentive. It's a change in how your brain is holding on to short-term information. And it's worth taking seriously, because while one instance might be harmless, a growing pattern could mean the early stages of something much more serious. 6. Why are we here? In the middle of an event. I'll never forget the moment I asked this question out loud, and the silence that followed. It was my granddaughter's birthday party. Balloons, streamers, cake. The whole family was there. I was sitting on the couch, smiling and clapping during the gift opening, when suddenly I felt completely lost. I leaned over to my son and asked, "Why are we here?" He looked at me like I'd just landed from Mars. In that moment, I wasn't confused about the place. I knew we were in their living room, but I couldn't remember why. The context was gone. I saw faces and heard voices, but the meaning of the event had vanished from my mind. And that's terrifying. Doctors warn that this kind of confusion, losing track of why you're in a certain place or what you're supposed to be doing, can indicate a deeper cognitive disruption. It's not just about forgetting a date or a name. It's your brain failing to maintain a narrative, a thread of continuity that helps you understand the flow of your day. This kind of disorientation isn't always obvious. Sometimes it's subtle. You walk into a room and forget why. But if you're finding yourself in social settings or important appointments and feeling completely disconnected from the moment, that's something you need to notice, because it often signals that your brain is struggling to link time, purpose, and place together. And without that link, even the most joyful occasions can start to feel like puzzles with missing pieces. 7. Is this my house? This one broke me. There was a night not too long ago when I walked into my own bedroom and froze. The furniture looked familiar. The colors, the pictures on the wall, they were mine. But for a few horrible seconds, I didn't feel home. I looked around and thought, is this my house? I didn't say anything. I pretended everything was fine. But deep inside, I felt scared. Doctors call this spatial disorientation, and it can be one of the more advanced early signs of dementia. It goes beyond misplacing things. It's when your brain struggles to process familiar environments. You might be physically home, but feel like a stranger in your own space. You might walk down a hallway you've walked 1,000 times and suddenly not know which door leads to the kitchen. And let me tell you, when you start losing your sense of place, you lose something even bigger, your sense of safety. I used to pride myself on being fiercely independent. I still do. But when your surroundings begin to feel foreign, it chips away at that independence. You might avoid going for walks alone or stop driving altogether because you're afraid of getting lost, even in your own neighborhood. That fear can isolate you. And isolation, that's a silent killer, especially for older women. If this has happened to you, even just once, don't brush it off. Talk to someone. Write it down. Because your surroundings should feel familiar, not frightening. 8. Why does everything feel different? This is perhaps the hardest question of all, because it's not something you can point to easily. It's not about a misplaced object or a forgotten name. It's a quiet, unsettling shift deep inside. A feeling that something's changed, even though you can't quite say what. It's like waking up in your own life, but the colors are just a little duller. The laughter sounds a little more distant. Your favorite TV show doesn't hold your attention like it used to. Conversations seem harder to follow, like people are talking too fast or your thoughts are running too slow. You might say to yourself, why do I feel so disconnected? Or why does everything seem off? Doctors say this emotional fog, this subtle but growing sense of alienation, is often an early psychological sign of dementia-related cognitive decline. Before the memory slips, before the repeating questions, many women feel this internal difference. They may not describe it as confusion. They'll describe it as detachment, like the world is slowly pulling away from them, or like they're moving through a dream. The saddest part, most women suffer through this stage silently. They don't want to worry their families. They tell themselves they're just tired or emotional, but deep down, they know something's not quite right. And I want you to know, if you've ever felt that eerie emotional distance from your own life, you're not imagining it. You're not crazy. And you're certainly not alone. That feeling matters. And it deserves attention because it's your brain's way of whispering that something needs care.